Well, here we are again
Here we are.
at the indeterminably long moments with Mike and Cami.
This has been, I think, for me, who knows about those who are watching it, but for me, this has been so fun to just kind of be able to go through and keeps our mind where our mind should be in this season.
Thank
so I
you.
think it's so good.
It's been a privilege for me too. I have to ask you from Luke chapter 1, verses 57 through 66. You have been blessed with being the mother of two amazing daughters and
Yes.
soon to become the mother-in-law
Yes.
to a wonderful young man named
Yes.
Clint. Do you remember after you and Stephen welcomed Annie and Callie? I remember after Chrissy and Katie were born. One of the first thoughts I had was, I wonder what this child is going to turn out to be.
Yes. Yes.
Do you remember that?
It's so funny that you would start out there because one of my major takeaways was that exact same point. Like, I wonder what this teeny little baby will be. And in essence, that's what, as we finally get to the birth of
Right.
John the Baptist, that's where we're at, right? Finally, we see him actually emerging on scene. It's interesting how much we are actually hearing of him before he was even born.
Even before he was born, all the way back into the what?
Yeah.
Verses 14, 15, 16,
Yeah.
17 of Luke chapter 1.
He's been a part of our story for a very long time.
He really
but
has.
he is now finally coming on the scene in person, in flesh. And the question really is in verse 66. What will this child be? Right? People are wondering, what is this about? Why is this moment so special? So let me ask you that question.
Sure.
Why was this moment, why was this particular birth of this baby so special?
Because he's so integral to the life of Jesus as the forerunner of Christ and the one who introduced him, if you will, to the nation. As someone who probably best in the early pages of the New Testament demonstrates a called life. You know, the word
that's
says
good.
at the end of chapter 1 of Luke that he was in the wilderness for a long time. We don't know how old it was. Maybe it was 12 or 13 after the bar mitzvah, and we don't know that.
Right.
It's an argument from silence. But I think the thing about John the Baptist's life, which is so incredible, not just his being the forerunner, but the way he spoke truth to power in Luke chapter 3, when the people came to him, the soldiers came to him, the tax gatherers came to him, and he just spoke truth to power. But I love what Jesus said about him, the greatest man ever born of woman.
Yeah. Those are big words.
That's incredible, right? You know, and again, we get so caught up in how he dressed and what he ate, and who wants to live out in a wilderness by himself, right?
He feels a little rough around the edges a little bit.
Oh, just a tad, right? But just this incredible personality and this incredible presence that the Lord, in his manifold wisdom, just kind of drops into the nation's lap.
Yep.
I love him.
And I find it really special in this portion of scripture because it was very obvious that a miracle had been done, right? And people were acknowledging the miracle that was John. I wonder if they were aware of what was still to come. I wonder if, Mary had spent considerable amount of time with Elizabeth, and then right now we have Elizabeth giving birth and all the people are rejoicing and celebrating. It just makes me wonder, had they spent time with Mary too? Were they aware of what was to come, of what was happening with Mary? Or was everything in this moment still very much about baby John?
Well, I'm sure that they talked about the conversations that Gabriel had with Zacharias and obviously the conversations that Mary had with Gabriel.
Right.
I'm sure that was a topic of great conversation, but don't you think it's likely that they were also talking about the scriptures from the Old Testament that now we're finding their prophetic fulfillment in the lives of their children? And in this case, the birth of John. And don't you just love Zacharias when everybody is, what do you mean you're going to name him John? You name the child after the father, right? And of course, he's now been mute for the entire time of the pregnancy, which I'm not sure.
A blessing, a curse.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's one of the questions we need to ask, when we get up to heaven.
Elizabeth might be able to tell us.
How was that for you? And how was that for you? Zacharias. But no, his name is John.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I wonder how much time he'd had to think about that in that whole 9-month time of the pregnancy.
Yep. And now we're meeting the one who will prepare the way.
Right.
And how often do we think from that perspective of, what has God called me to do, and in what ways in my own life am I preparing the way for God to be on the scene for others around me as well?
Music plays such an important part in the Christmas life, right? When some of the songs that we sing, we don't sing any other time. I don't know why we don't sing Joy to the World more often than we do, because he has come and he is coming and he will come, right?
Yep.
But music plays such a major role. We had Mary busting out in praise from our time together, the last session. Next time we get together, we have the prophetic busting out of Dad, right? When Zacharias now being able to speak.
Yeah.
And
he had a lot to say after being silent
he
for
did.
so long.
The longest session, apart from the first 20 verses we covered in Luke chapter 1, he gets a long section here at the end of chapter 1 because he does have a lot to say. And I'm looking forward to spending time with you and going over that in our next moments with Mike and Cami.
Great.